Thank you. Waste, fraud, and abuse. Sounds familiar? Every society seems to be flirting with democracy, and the nature of their flirtation may be different, but at the heart of it seems to be a growing disenchantment with the administrative state. In India, we have been long disenchanted with the administrative state because it simply seems to fail on all the everyday things most of you here take for granted. Our public schools are appalling. If it snows, luckily it's hot in Delhi, but there are parts of India that are cold. If it snows, the municipal administration isn't going to show up the next day to clear out the roads. We blame the front lines of the administrative state. It's the bureaucrats that we see every day who are incompetent, who are corrupt, who are apathetic. And the best way to get the state to work, we say, in the US you want algorithms, we have perfected the panopticon. We use technology in all kinds of ways to monitor, to create real-time data, to see what these guys are doing every day, so much so that we can monitor sitting in Delhi whether the school teacher has showed up in a school in a village far, 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 far away because there's a biometric stuck there and a command and control center where the senior bureaucrat is checking to see if the teacher's shown up. We forget, of course, that showing up is only half the job. Once you get there, you actually need to teach. And that's really the challenge that we needed to confront. 50% of children in schools in India in Standard 5 can barely read a Standard 2 text. The challenge of education for a large population that is on the tipping point of a demographic dividend is huge and critical, and we need desperately to strengthen our public school systems. But because we don't like the administrative state, because it's people with characters that we think are basically corrupt, incompetent, and apathetic, we look for solutions in the wrong place. I spent many years documenting the story of how one state government in my city, the city of Delhi, attempted to improve the quality of schools by briefly listening, but mostly confronting, because they didn't listen hard enough, to the voices of those at the front line whom we say are the causes of all the waste, fraud, and abuse, that is, the reasons for our disenchantment, to try and improve the quality of schools. When listening to them, I recognized that because we're so busy in perfecting the panopticon, we have removed from them the whole sense of purpose. Teachers talked about themselves very much as administrators. We came to teach, but we are nothing but administrative clerks. The system, because it's a bureaucratic hierarchy, Weberian to perfection, so it only operates when an order comes through a circular all the way down to the front lines. We traced in 3 years 8,000 circulars. We also learned from the British. We really got it right. We have a lot of paper. Nothing is real if it's not on paper, in the file, ordered through the Bavarian hierarchy. But in the process, nothing gets done if it's not written in the order. And an order-driven structure, which is deeply embedded in hierarchy, creates organizational norms that are basically structured around enabling the hierarchy to operate through this paper rather than asking itself what its core purpose of being here is. As long as we move papers, we have done our job, say a lot of the frontline officers. We think of ourselves as no more than post officers. I call this the post office paradox. Post officers, not because we are efficient and we get money or we get a postcard all the way from the state capital to the middle of nowhere, but post officers because we're just moving papers around, unclear of what our purpose is. And the hierarchy will usually ask if I have moved the paper rather than tell me what the purpose of this paper was. So when we tracked, for instance, the time use of many of our frontline workers, we discovered by and large most of the day will begin based on what the order says. That comes on WhatsApp nowadays, tells you what you're supposed to do. So you're busy yourself in the day responding to what you're supposed to do on that particular day. In one of the occasions when we were tracing our frontline education administrators, it was a time when they were supposed to work with parent-teacher associations making plans for the schools, but they'd received an order to ensure that all schools had introduced yoga practice in the morning assembly, and so they spent the entire day making phone calls to ensure that the yoga practice was happening to please the hierarchy rather than actually do what they were supposed to do, which might have actually contributed to improving the quality of schools. So the front line says, we are nothing but post officers, and our job is largely about complete rest in comfortable conditions. Inside the classroom, then, the teacher is doing complete rest in comfortable conditions. In India, we do development through acronyms, so that position is called the CRCC, Cluster Resource Center Coordinator, meant to mentor teachers in schools, but he describes himself rather eloquently as complete rest in comfortable conditions. I respond when the order comes, and for the rest, our CRCC is completely resting. This translates inside the classroom in a manner that doesn't focus on what children are learning, but in a manner that focuses on how best to respond to the hierarchical norms within which I'm embedded. This isn't a corrupt, apathetic, incompetent bureaucrat or incompetent public school worker, official. This is really somebody who is responding to the organizational culture within which they are embedded, which is pushing them then to only think of the classroom as something that can be easily monitored, because if you can biometric it, then it's actually working. So they are asked about the number of students that pass the exam. They are asked about whether they've completed the syllabus. They are not asked why it is that 50% of children in this classroom are nowhere near the curriculum level expectations and what they can do to improve the quality of learning in their classrooms. So when we ask these frontline officers what exactly it is that they can do to improve the quality of schooling in their schools, they turn around and say, government can do a lot. But they forget that they are government, because for them, even though they may be exhuming the power of being a government officer, it means a lot to be part of the state in India. You can't sack 10,000 federal workers in India and not have a protest. The government will be on fire. That's the difference between our two countries, even though we have many similarities. Yet, the actor inside the state thinks of herself as a remarkably powerless, powerful bureaucrat. This is the heart of the challenge of public service provision in India. I learned this from listening to the voices of the front line. And in writing this book, I'm appealing to those of us who want to, in fact, strengthen democracy, to ask ourselves whether we should dismiss the administrative state as merely being one of waste, abuse, and fraud, or rather embrace the administrative state as a potential partner in strengthening the societies as we imagine them to pursue the cause of democracy rather than the cause of authoritarianism. Thank you.